If you pay every bill on time and your score's in the 700s, you think you're safe. I used to believe that too. But here's the truth. Even with perfect A1 credit, those people are slipping behind right now by double digits. So stay with me and I'm going to explain why that's happening and how you can turn it into not just protection, but also profit. What up? You got Mr. Smith, founder of the Credit Business University. And I want to talk to you about something that not a lot of people are talking about, and some people are sweeping under the rug, but also position you to benefit from this in a way that protects you and gives you profit. So more prime borrowers are falling behind on paying their bills. And this is an article from Consumer Affairs. And I want to dive in and then give an overview of some things that's going on that puts you on the front end of the things mentally so you can implement literally. So even top credit scores are falling behind. Late stage delinquencies jumped 109% for super prime borrowers and 47% for prime borrowers. And I'll let you know what those numbers look like. So average U.S. credit scores dips. The typical Vantage score 4.0 fell to 701 in July, signaling more financial stress for households. Car and mortgage debts grow. Balances keep rising for auto loans and mortgages, even as fewer people are taking out new loans. And I recently read an article on how some of the people who were about to buy a home change their mind and canceled at the last minute. So sometimes they're not even taking the new loans, but they still fall into this category. So if you've always thought that people with top credit scores are nearly immune to financial trouble, well, the new data suggests that that may no longer be the case. According to the latest Credit Gals report from VantageScore, borrowers in the highest credit tiers are now falling behind on their payments at a much faster rate than before. Superprime consumers, those with the very best credit, saw 90 plus day delinquencies more than double in the past year. That's pretty significant because that's not always the picture that's painted. And I feel like I know some of the reasons of why that is the case. And a lot of it is the marketing behind getting all of this debt, all of these loans, getting funding. And that's why don't push that so heavily, because the person has to be equipped to handle the funding that they may qualify for. Otherwise, when shit hits the fan or time progresses or it gets to a place to where they're not able to necessarily manage because they bit off more than they could chew, now they're in a deeper hole than they were before. So I have to come from that angle because this is dealing with a person's livelihood, their family, their dynamics, their children, their spouse, their relationship, all of the above. So it's just important to understand how serious this can be, because even prime borrowers who typically have reliable repayment histories posted a nearly 50% increase in serious delinquencies. So the report highlights a troubling trend. Credit stress is spreading up the credit ladder, catching even borrowers who usually have strong financial footing. So the average credit score slips. Let's talk about it. Nationwide, the average Vantage 4.0 credit score in July dipped by 1 point to 701. That may not sound like much, but it reflects a gradual decline in the overall health of the U.S. consumer credit profiles. Now, before you say anything about the Vantage score, because I know some people have reservations with the Vantage score, don't listen to the Vantage score, only focus on the FICO. Vantage is starting to gain new wings because a lot of people have been using it, because I always have said that it's good to use as a model, as a, something just to use as a gauge, not necessarily depend on it, because that may not be what the banks are using. Well, the tables are flipping. People are using Vantage, and mortgage lenders have the option to use the Vantage score in some of their qualifications without using the FICO score if they so choose. Now, not a lot of them have chosen that, but the fact that their door is open means that more people will start to walk through it. More people will start to use it. More people will respect Vantage, and FICO will lose its dominance from a monopoly standpoint. So you got to respect the Vantage score. Just understand the factors that cause each score to move, and that way you use it to your advantage, regardless of the scoring model title. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, more people are moving into subprime territory where repayment risks are higher. Subprime consumers now make up 18.7% of the population compared to 18.1 2 years ago. At the same time, the prime tier has shrunk, signaling that fewer people are able to maintain that middle ground status. For everyday consumers, this shift matters. Falling into a lower credit tier can mean higher interest rates, tougher approval standards, and fewer options when it comes to borrowing. So here are some of the charts and the stats. I won't bore you with the details of the charts, but if you want to screenshot it for your own sake, because you may be educating others, you may help people with their credit, then feel free to do just that. Now, bigger loans, rising delinquencies. What does that mean? So the report also sheds light on what's happening with two of the biggest expenses for most households, which is cars and homes. Auto loans and mortgages are seeing higher rates of borrowers missing payments in the early stages, which is 30 to the 59-day range. Loan balances are climbing in both categories as the sustained high cost of cars and housing keeps pushing debt loads higher. At the same time, new lending is slowing. Auto loan originations fell 1.42% in July, down from a spring peak of 1.76. Mortgage originations were essentially flat compared to June, but only slightly higher than a year ago. So it's typically not moving. I mean, pretty much now, and it's just slightly higher than a year ago. So it's not a lot of growth in there, no matter what anybody is telling you. So that means even fewer people are buying new cars or homes. Those who do are often borrowing more and then finding it harder to keep up the payments. So this is what they call sustained inflation for car and house prices, driving higher balances in these credit categories. So if you're already carrying higher balances, it's a good time to check your budget, revisit your repayment strategy, and avoid stretching too far on big purchases. Even consumers with excellent credit may want to brace for tougher lending standards and higher borrowing costs. Banks and lenders tend to tighten requirements when they see delinquencies trend rising. So if banks and lenders are seeing these trends rising, then they're going to tighten up the borrowing, which puts less money in circulations, quote unquote. And now that leads to what they call a depression. That leads to what they call a recession, because they're taking back some of the money that they were making available, meaning it could be harder to qualify for loans or to refinance existing debt in the months ahead. So it's a trickle down. It all starts to trickle down. The interest rates, everything starts a trickle down. And this article was credited to Mark Huffman. Let me give him his credit on Consumer Affairs. But this is what I want to point out. The solution is positioning yourself to increase your cash flow, make more money, while also bettering your credit. That's why I launched my community. You can get access to it for little to nothing now before the price increases, where you'll have access to education about credit all in one place, access to other people who are on their journey, and the abilities to make money in the credit industry, even if you don't want to launch your own credit business and you just want to position people to get access to knowledge. And you may also realize that you might be qualified for compensation, meaning that you may be owed money due to certain FCRA violations. One of the first things you do when you join the community is follow the step to see if you qualify for anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500, all from an FCRA violation that may be on your credit report, meaning that they are reporting something in a way that is a violation or a violation to your rights. And we want to help you get what's rightfully yours. If you meet the qualifications, our legal team will take care of all of that. Plus, if you like the community, you like what you see, you feel the value is in there, you can share it with somebody and get 50% commission. Plus, if you want to make money in the area of credit in multiple ways, that avenue of opportunity is there as well. That way, when we see statistics and stats like this of more people being delinquent, even the superprime borrowers who have the 700 plus credit being more delinquent, now you have a solution. See, it's one thing to talk about the headlines and the problems, but I really find it difficult to want to even talk about a problem without talking about the opposite, which is a solution. I don't like when somebody talks about the negative, but don't balance it out with some positive. Not that it's not a place for that, because negative usually has a positive association with it and vice versa. But delivering it without the other side is not good. The same is true when what I say about a lot of people pushing funding, get funding. Yeah, it's cool. You can get access to $100,000 in funding, $50,000 in funding. But the downside to that is if that person doesn't have the mentality, the skill set, the ability to be disciplined enough to pay those debts back, or have the discipline or the ability to accumulate the cash flow that makes that debt pay for itself, then they run the risk of being in a deeper hole than what they were in before. So you got to talk about both sides. That way a person makes a conscious decision, makes conscious efforts, takes the necessary actions in order to offset the likelihood of it leading to their detriment. So if you want access to the community where you can get ongoing education, get plugged in directly to me as well as my legal team, etc., then I highly recommend you check out that link below and let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you know that things are tightening in certain areas? Do you know that extra cash flow would be of benefit to many people or yourself? But this is something I know to be true, even though I thought at one point higher credit score means you good to go. You ain't got nothing to worry about. No, it's not the case. It's all about the practices, the habits, understanding certain ebbs and flows and things that happen, so that way you can understand how to pivot, navigate, and solve the problems for yourself, and then potentially solve the problems for others. Check out the available link down below. I'll see you on the next one. Salute.